All you homeowners have unique needs. Some feel the need to leave up holiday decorations year-round. Others have the need to use their garage as practice space for their new metal band. And because each homeowner has unique needs, Geico helps you get the right coverage for your home and what's in it. That way, you get exactly what's right for you, even if your needs are unique. Get more with Geico.
This is a More Than Just Podcast production.
Welcome to Podcast Season 7, Episode 20. And my name is Tim Mitra. I am still in Toronto, Ontario, and I'm joined by Jonathan Kuline, who's now back in Jacksontown, New Brunswick.
You got it! Jacksontown, New Brunswick. Hello there, kids. I'm back.
Yes, he was temporarily in Mississauga, but we didn't record last week because we were too busy. And Jaime Lopez Jr. is joining us in Seattle, Washington.
How's it going?
How's it going? We probably should have all just said that at the same time, eh, Jonathan? How's it going?
How's it going? How's it going?
How's it going? All right. Well, we're all messed up today, by the way, so we have a bunch of things to follow up on. I was talking about Michael Chiklis, who played The Thing in one of the incarnations of the Fantastic Four. He is known for The Shield, which is a show that Jonathan and I were stumbling to remember. He played some sort of off the book cop guy, kind of tough guy, but I don't think I ever watched an episode of that. And we were talking about Jumping Jeepers. We were talking about 70s cartoons, Saturday morning cartoons. I was trying to remember the show because it seemed to be like a few shows that had sort of falling through a hole in the ground and like a Valley of the Dinosaurs was the one I was thinking about, which is kind of like a science teacher and a kids and a Scooby-like dog named Digger, and they had a pet Stegosaurus. And this is before the meth lab in the RV. So the other one I was thinking about was Land of the Lost, is probably the one I was thinking about. And there was a show I vaguely remember it was on for a season called Korg 70,000 BC. Well, there was a movie called 1 Million Years BC with Raquel Welch. So I think they were kind of building on that. But this was like a Neanderthal dude.
Yeah.
Right. So it was the first time I'd ever heard about I was probably like 10 or something.
Yeah.
Neanderthal dude. So. And
then in the early 80s, there was Thundar the Barbarian, which was like a quasi-futuristic one. And the Marvel Comics in the 70s started doing The Savage Land, which was this mysterious place underneath the Antarctic that was this, dinosaur land too. So that I think a lot of people had that same, inspiration and ran with it during that era.
Yeah, and there was I guess Land of the Lost was the remake that they did with Will Ferrell, Will Ferrell. Yep. Yeah, where he kind of goes down, and those are, I don't know, just those dinosaurs hiding underneath the crust of the earth. I just don't understand, how we've never sort of stumbled across them.
Probably a thing.
Well, I mean, they didn't kind of have this approach, but I appreciated the approach of the Godzilla King of the Monsters verse, where they're sort of inside the earth, but kind of really not, because you're going through a portal to somewhere else. So it's kind of like there's like a wormhole, if you dig deep enough or go through the right portholes. But it's not literally like a hollow earth kind of thing that a lot of these 70s, 80s era, Land of the Lost kind of things we're doing.
By the way, it scores 2-2 now.
Yep.
All right, moving on to the headlines, other than hockey. Yeah, by the way, in case you're wondering what we're talking about, we're recording on the day of the big giant, most important game of ever, U.S. versus Canada, which will be important till the next game comes along.
Yeah.
All right. So Jonathan's up first with the headlines.
Yeah. So we're going to recap a few things. So we didn't get a chance to talk about the Super Bowl premieres. We got some, commercials and some trailers. They dropped a bit more of a robust commercial, so it's not too long. It's only 2 minutes, but a commercial for the Thunderbolts. Thunderbolts Asterix, and that was pretty good. It didn't really change anything, although for comic fans, it definitely tipped the hat on exactly what they were doing. Not that we didn't kind of know where this was going, but we actually see a villain killing innocents in this trailer, and comic fans will know immediately who that is and what they're up to. So if again, it's hard to pull a spoiler in a Marvel movie over a Marvel Comics fan because they're kind of mind the depths of the comics. But it was a pretty dead giveaway, and I'm not sure that I would have put that in the trailer. But anyways, it didn't diminish my interest in seeing this movie. It still looks pretty good. So, what did you guys think of this trailer that sort of starts with Valentina standing up in front of U.S. representatives and talking about how her team is going to be the new Avengers?
Yeah, right. This one had a bit more of that character that I forget the name of, or maybe I don't know the name of, that the sort of strange dude guy, George or whatever his name is.
Bob, yeah.
So, yeah. No, it just looks pretty good. I mean, like I said, it's a mix of what we've already seen already and a little bit more, but I don't know if it really explains it to the uninitiated, which I count myself as one of,
How about you, Hemi?
Yeah, I think it was a nice way to get people hyped up for the movie. I can't remember if in this trailer they actually show the DeFontaine character that Julia Louis-Dreyfus plays.
Yeah, she's the one that starts it. She's standing up in front of what looks to be a committee,
congressional committee.
Yeah, a committee of
that's a
US
work of
Congress.
fiction these days. Yeah.
Yeah, and sitting there alongside Bucky talking about like how important this is and how they need somebody. But it's also, I think they did a good job. Like one of the lines that they pulled out of this was about how like none of them can fly, none of them can shoot lasers. They're all like punch, kick, stab, shoot people.
Yeah, they're skilled. They're not necessarily super powered, right?
Yeah. Although, Bucky's got super strength and Red Guardian has super strength and,
Yeah. Red Guardian did?
Yeah, I mean, he seems to be stronger than an average human because he's part of the Russian super soldier program.
Oh, is he? Okay.
And Bucky's got an arm that apparently you can wash in a dishwasher, so.
I mean, think about how rank it would get. Like, not necessarily, like, you could probably just pull out like a wire brush and like scrape off, the main bits. I'm talking about the bit that attaches to his body. Yeah. I've heard from people with prosthetics that like you got to make sure you scrub real good everywhere, including the body part that attaches there, because it, you sweat, you get stank in there. So dishwasher friendly seems like a high priority feature for that sort of thing.
Yeah, well, apparently that's Wakandan technology at its best, is to make it dishwasher safe.
I guess, yeah.
Again, this movie looks fun. It looks like it's on the lighter side of the Marvel stuff. It looks like a sort of a buddy team comedy / grounded heroes versus a superpowered kind of thing. It's got a Suicide Squad kind of vibe. It's got, all those comps you can make. It looks fun. I'm still in.
Cool. Yep. What do you got next?
So next up, I've got the Blade Runner 2049 auction. Well, unfortunately, this one wrapped up today. So we'll keep the link in here if you want to sort of see what was available. But sometimes we talk about the prop auctions they have, Star Wars stuff, Star Trek stuff. We talk about some of the things that you can get if you're a fan of sci-fi. We talked about it, the Doctor Who one they had recently. They did one recently through PropStoreAuction.com, and it is a whole bunch of the props and costumes from Blade Runner 2049, including Ryan Gosling's costume, the one with the weird like neckline. It's got like his badge. It's got all kinds of cool stuff. You have to log in to see the winning prices, so I have not. I don't have the totals in front of me. I imagine some of these things went for very, very high numbers, but it is because it is such a highly stylized movie. Some of these props are really, really neat. So even if you're just a fan of sci-fi and want to have a look at the authentic props that they used in some of these places, Ryan Gosling's blaster shoulder holster, the handcuffs, there's lots of just really neat stuff in here. And there's dozens and dozens of items from the movie. If you are a fan of the movie, a fan of the Blade Runner world, it's just kind of neat to have a look through at the detail and some of these costumes and props and stuff. So enjoy that.
Cool. Yep.
One of them that's weird is this, like the drinking glass. I'm like, that looks so regular and normal. Like, I could just go get them at Walmart.
Yeah.
Isn't that the one that she smashes in her hand?
I don't know. I guess it depends on the entry. I was looking at the one that claimed it was Ryan Gosling's one. Is that the one that gets smashed?
Oh, Gosling, yeah, right.
Yeah.
There's a couple of them actually say they're his glasses.
Yeah, and they've even got his cigarette case. You can get. Yeah, it's neat. There's like a lot of really cool props. The Anna de Armas's housewife costume when she's at his apartment and stuff. Yeah, there's some really neat stuff. But yeah, the drinking glass is a really weird one.
Oh, the female replicant, that would be good. Oh, it's sold.
Oh, everything's sold. The seems like I think some of these things are closing now, but I think tonight was the deadline. You could even have the lock of Rachel's hair, Sean Young's hair. What if it's really Sean Young's hair? How detailed were they? How committed were they? The weirdest one is the bones, right? There's actually because in the movie, spoilers obviously for the movie, but in the movie there's a scene where they unearth bones and you can buy all the bones.
Nice.
That's a discussion piece.
Buried under the tree.
Yeah.
A little wooden horse, that'd be cool.
Mm-hmm.
Wonder what that sold for. That was a major MacGuffin in the movie.
Yeah. I take the weird the Ryan Gosling coat with the high collar that goes up to his nose. That's a conversation.
That would
piece.
be good in winter.
Yeah,
well,
except in Canada it would fill up with snow. You'd need to wear a hat that covered over.
Yeah,
you'd suffocate.
Yeah, for sure. Cool. Right. So my next story here comes from Tom, who runs a blog called or a YouTube page, a newsletter called Proper Honest Tech. He's out of the UK, and he does. I follow him because he does a lot of interesting things about what you should do with your iPad or your phone. Maybe you didn't know you should do whatever. But this was a sort of a like we have a sort of weekly pick. He has picks at the bottom of his newsletter, and this one was about. I've titled it "Why We Need VHS Cleaners," and I'm like, well, we used to clean the VHS heads all the time. But apparently, if you have VHS tapes, you might want to take a look at them because they can get moldy. And the technology was not designed around the fact that they get moldy because the technology wasn't supposed to last as long. So you may have an old family tape or something you haven't transferred to digital yet, or maybe you have a favorite movie or whatever. If you're storing it in your basement or your crawl space, Jonathan, you got to take a look at that. So, because you get this sort of white mold on it. So this video is about a dude who's made a device that helps you take the spindles, undo the case, take the spindles out, and run it through and clean both sides of the tape with like a little cloth and I guess some bit of cleaning material, because it will bugger up your VHS player if you run it through with the mold on it. Also, it'll also deteriorate the tape. So if you have any VHS tapes that you love and you need to get them transferred onto digital as soon as possible, you might want to check them out and see if you need a cleaner. So just word to the wise. I have a few boxes of tapes here, but I haven't really gone and done a good look at them. Most of them I've had them digitized already. And we'll hand it over to Jaime for the next headline.
Yeah, so Apple TV Plus seems to be on a sort of kick where they apparently just go to like a local Barnes and Nobles. They say, let me find all the interesting sci-fi novels, and then turn them into successful series. We've seen that with Silo, we've seen that with Dark Matter, and this new one, or new to me at least, is Murderbot, starring Alexander Skarsgård, where the tagline, according to this article on The Verge, is Murderbot must hide its free will and complete a dangerous assignment when all it really wants is to be left alone to watch futuristic soap operas and figure out its place in the universe. So... a little bit different, a little bit, on the less dramatic side, comedy, possibly dark comedy sort of thing. But I have good faith in this one because they've got a good batting average with these.
Yeah, I don't know, Jaime. When it's called Murderbot, I just have a tough time believing it's going to be a benign entity.
Yeah, I assume. I mean, if you think about the plot line to the Short Circuit series and the original one, like those were government weapons that one of them accidentally becomes cute and alive, right? But
number 5
number 5 is good. All the rest of them are all mindless automatons that are there to murder. They're literally murder bots, and yet nobody really thinks of that movie as being super dark. This one could be, for all I know. Again, I'm not familiar with the series, but I have a lot of faith with Apple. They've been doing pretty good with Apple TV Plus and taking sci-fi novels and turning them into successful TV shows.
Yeah, there's another one too I'm thinking of. Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, Marvin the robot, right?
Yeah.
Marvin?
Yep.
Is that his name?
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, he's a little forlorn and trying to figure out his place in the universe too.
Yeah. It's more depressed than anything else, yeah.
Yeah, depressed, yeah.
Cool. I'm in.
Right.
All right. Quickly, so there was one of the movies that was announced as part of the new wave of DC Comics products that are coming out in theaters was, surprisingly, Sergeant Rock, which was a very popular comic a long, long time ago. Some people still hold to it. I've never been a huge fan of war-themed books that are grounded in reality. If it's space aliens, I think I can handle it. I really don't care for humans shooting humans as much. They were going to do this movie, and the name that was attached to it was Daniel Craig to be the star as Sergeant Rock. Interesting, because Sergeant Rock is supposed to be this ultimate, U.S. soldier in World War II. So why not hire a Brit? But they apparently were very close to him, signing on to do this picture, and everyone thought it was a good fit. The director of the film is the same director that did his last movie, Queer. And so everybody thought that was sort of a fait accompli. But apparently today, Daniel Craig has opted out of the project. So he's not going to be Sergeant Rock. So the search is now back on for the Sergeant Rock in the DC universe. How this ties into the larger DC universe, I'm fascinated by. Are they going to make this, Sergeant Rock, time travel? I don't know. I mean, or is it just a standalone thing? Is it just a property that they? And again, this is a character that's been around for 70 years, very popular in his time. Lots of talk over the years, dating back 40 years. There was talk about doing a movie version of it because again, it was a known property. I just don't think there's a huge audience for it now. But then, James Gunn has the car keys and he wants to make it, so off we go.
Right. Cool.
All right, scale of 1 to 10. First of all, have you heard of Sergeant Rock? Second of all, would you watch a Sergeant Rock movie?
I hadn't heard of Sergeant Rock till maybe you might have mentioned it before, but I don't know. Depends if there's nothing else on. I guess I'll watch it.
For me, have heard, had some comic books because my grandfather used to like going to. He was friends with somebody at a comic shop, and I guess once the monthly was done, they would have to tear the cover off or something.
Yep, they tore the top half of the cover off.
Yeah, and then there's oh, see, that's the proof that we didn't sell it and other stuff, and he somehow got not the torn piece, but the remaining damaged books free or excessively cheap. They'd come back with a big old box of comics, and Sergeant Rock was one of those ones I do remember reading. It is a war themed thing. It sounds like it might be interesting as a standalone property. I'm just struggling to see how it fits in with put him right next to Superman and Batman. It's Punisher's a little different because you can have a weirdo vigilante. I don't remember Sergeant Rock as being a vigilante type character.
No, I mean he's a grunt, right? That was the whole point. He was the G.I. Joe of his time, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So could be interesting standalone. I'm a little confused as to how it would fit into the Superman movie that's coming in with Guy Gardner and Hawk Girl and stuff.
Yeah, I don't know how this fits, but again, there must be a grand vision. I would really hope so.
Yeah, I would think a Sergeant Rock dude would be like a sort of Schwarzenegger kind of character, right?
And that's what they talked about back in the day, was that would be one of the people that was interested way back when in playing that character. Although, again, the height of humor having an Austrian play the ultimate U.S. World War II hero. But yeah, he was apparently interested.
They don't have any South African army people that they could put in there?
Really, let's just see how far we can push this premise. But hey, let's cast an American to play an American. Who knows? And the last thing for our headlines here. So news from Deadline.com that three Marvel projects that were in line at Disney for Disney Plus have been put on pause. So that doesn't mean that they're canceled. It doesn't mean they're not happening. It just means that they have suspended development for now, which could mean that they're going to go into, turnaround. They're going to try and find something else to do with them. They're going to, do a different direction, or they're going to change the strategy, or it could mean that they are going to, put them on the back bench and you will never hear from them again. Those three products that they were working on were Nova, Strange Academy, and Terror Incorporated. Nova is one I'm actually a little surprised because they've kind of teased it. So Nova is based as a human character that works with the Nova Corps, which we met during Guardians of the Galaxy 1 and carried through some of the other space-based Marvel content. That one seemed like a bit of a no-brainer because there was that sort of tie-in, and it's kind of one of those right person, right place, right time gets powers, kind of easy to tell kind of stories. It seemed like a bit of a no-brainer. I'd be surprised if it didn't come back in some form at some point. Strange Academy was actually a really good comic that started about 4 or 5 years ago. And the premise is essentially that, young, magically powered kids in the Marvel Universe can go to Strange Academy and learn from Doctor Strange on how to control their powers and become good at their craft and everything else. It's a little Harry Potterish, as you'd imagine, but very much rooted in a lot of the mythology of magical characters in the MCU, which, it's a good book. I really liked it. And Terror Inc., I was never a fan of. It doesn't really do anything for me. I was surprised when I heard that they were developing that one. But, if they want to just dive into the obscurities of the Marvel Universe, I guess they can. That was a book that came out in the height of the grotesque era of comics bloat in the early 90s. It's about a hero named Terror who can take on other people's body parts and gain their abilities and their memories and stuff. It was kind of like Rogue from the X-Men, but gorier. Again, not my cup of tea, but and honestly, I don't know anyone whose cup of tea it is. If you are, please jump onto our Slack channel. I'd love to hear from you and how you fell in love with Terror. But yeah, anyways, those 3 products are apparently on the back burner. So we'll have to live without those in the short term.
All right. Well, this is the main part of the show where we talk about something Star Trek related, hopefully. And good news, we've got some this week. We're going to be talking about Star Trek Prodigy as we watch for the first time, and Jaime's been doing a rewatch. We're also going to cover off a couple of episodes of Severance. And if you're waiting to find out about the Spockies, stay tuned because they're coming up soon. But we'll jump back to Star Trek Prodigy, Season 2, Episode 9 and 10, and the mystery of why Keen wanted us to watch this show, I think, has now been revealed.
Yes, the Devourer of all things, which a great title. I mean, very ominous.
Oh, it was part 1 and 2. Okay,
yeah. Mm-hmm. So this was sort of the big culmination of the first half of the season. Some of the mystery of what's been up is revealed here. There is a rather amazing and astonishing. It's not a cameo; it's a reappearance of an established, longtime Star Trek character, and a lot of lore and a lot of bafflegab. This is probably the thickest episode of Star Trek bafflegab I've heard in quite a while, where they're just like making up all kinds of stuff to explain how things work in quantum space and everything else. Like it was a little impenetrable. It's really funny because they have been, and we jokingly again call this Starter Trek, where it's for the kids. If a kid watched this, there's no way they could follow it. I was having a tough time at time being like, this is the most convoluted thing. I was surprised at how deep in the weeds they were on some of this stuff for this show.
Yeah. I mean, the little agents that sort of eat the timelines. I mean, that was a bit like from Loki, the Loki timeline thing, and mixing in the creatures from the Matrix, part 2, part 3, whatever.
Which is funny because at the beginning of the episode when they landed the Infinity, for the first time, I was like, God, that looks an awful lot like the Nebuchadnezzar from the Matrix. When it landed, I was like, how did I not notice that before? It looks just like the Nebuchadnezzar. And then these things show up that look just like the Squiddies from Matrix. I'm like, wait a minute.
Anyway, an interesting thing. So are we doing the spoiler thing on this?
We'll get into the spoilers. If you're not watching along with us, obviously you want to skip ahead. But I think we have to talk about the big thing in this episode.
Yeah, the big thing. Well, we've hinted at this before because we've all sort of tried to guess at who the person is that's been giving Gwyn the secret messages and that kind of stuff, or personages.
And talking to
Murph.
Murph, yeah.
Yeah. Now, I mean, because we've had time agents in the past. We had them in the Enterprise series. We had them in Voyager with 7 of 9, went on a couple of missions, right? And sort of the sort of the time cops, in the same sense that Loki, the Loki series was about, what was it called?
The TVA,
yeah, TVA. They keep track, or they fix the timelines, whatever. So Wesley Crusher, who we know from the Picard series, jumped into the future and joined this special agency part, which is kind of what I expected Section 31 to be sort of like, you know, like this sort of
much more spy-y and less pew pew pew.
Yeah. And sort of intelligent, and, you know, the best equipment and whatever. Anyway, so because I think in the end of season 1, he takes the clone, the second clone, to come and work with him in the future, right? Or in wherever he works, right?
Yeah.
in various timelines. So he's comes in and tells the kids in the show, that the young cadets and stuff, that they are meant to repair the error that was made, but they're there too soon, kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
And so over 2 episodes, it kind of goes through how he explains the timelines and how they're all divergent, and then it's kind of, it's like trying to explain Git to somebody who's never done Git before, right? That's, you know, which branch am I merging from where to who, and there's a merge conflict, and yeah, there's just things that make even senior developers go, hang on a second, I got to look at this for a minute, right? But yeah, so these I guess the MacGuffin, if you want to call it that, or the conceit in this, is that if these squiggly creature guys
the loom.
Mm-hmm. If the loom eats, well, it's so like a timeline is like a web, right? Warp and web, weaving. So, but if they manage to eat the timeline, like moths, like he said, he equates it to moths, right? Or eating an old jacket, right? But if they eat something, like there's a I don't know if the guy was wearing a red shirt. I hope he was, but
Ensign Middleton.
Yeah,
no, he was. As soon as I saw they were taking Ensign Middleton, I was like, oh no.
Yeah, juicy, right?
That was the Star Trek for this one. Never wear a red uniform on an away mission.
Yeah, so he gets consumed, and then when they go back to the ship, or they beam back to the ship, the people that were on the ship, like Captain Janeway and the Doctor, have no idea who Ensign Middleton was. Right, because what these when they consume the timeline, they will consume you right out of anybody knowing anything about you, right, kind of thing, which is kind of an interesting concept of the butterfly effect is what we're talking about. You know, the sort of, you make one change here, you change all kinds of other timelines, right?
Yeah, but then there was also that element of like pruning that they talked about in the Loki one too, where it's like, you know, they prune you out of existence on that time, right?
Yeah, which is, so I guess these squiggly guys are the equivalent of the TVA, but like with less organization, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know,
more tentacles.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. Jaime, you've obviously been coming at this for longer than us. You've had 6 months to digest this. What did you like and what did you not like about all this?
I think they did a pretty decent job, I think, of explaining who, you know, Wesley Crusher is and why he has this ability. I have to admit, as I was watching this live, you know, I hadn't expected Wesley Crusher. I was thinking it was Future Guy from Enterprise is what I was betting my money on.
Yeah.
And so this ends up working. It makes it kind of Doctor Who-ish, which is a bit of a tonal change. But since this is a predominantly kids show, I'm like, okay, it still ends up working decently well. So that I also appreciated the recognition here from like Admiral Janeway, and she's like, oh wait, Wesley Crusher, you mean that kid from the Enterprise that like went off and became like a traveler thingy, like that? Like, you have to imagine that they're reading the trip reports, right, to understand what's going on. And it's like, oh yeah, it wasn't just you know, fan service. Is like, oh, okay, this person is going to be important enough that their appearance is going to be weird and noticeable.
Yeah. Yeah, it didn't exactly portray Wesley Crusher as a paragon of normality. He came off as really weird. Like, I guess the idea is that, obviously he's been away traveling time and space and thought, and maybe that's supposed to have unhinged him or something, but he definitely was very frenetic, very like kind of all over the place, right?
Yeah.
Which was, again, a bit of a strange play for like when you're first introducing it and they're supposed to be like, oh, yeah, like this is the man. We got to trust this guy. I'm like, I don't know if I would have followed the guy anywhere.
Well, that's why he sort of did seem like a Doctor Who, because Doctor Who doesn't sound at first like he's got it all together, right? So,
yeah, especially when he's like, oh, wait, you're not supposed to know that yet. It's like, what? No, what? Those kind of comments. So he gets a little confused by where am I in the timeline? Who knows what at this point in time?
Yeah. Yep. I think it was convoluted. There was no way around the fact that it was both good in that it was propulsive. It was moving. Things were happening. There was a little bit of a navel-gazy kind of thing over the past few episodes. Good episodes, but they were kind of just sort of building to this clearly. And there was a lot of propulsive action, and, there was a lot of unpredictability, which I enjoy. It was sort of like, well, what's all this? But ultimately, I feel like it was almost a little too expository and a little too dense, especially if this is catered towards a younger audience. I feel like this would have been a tough swing for a lot of younger viewers to try and enjoy and understand. I don't know. Do you guys agree? Like this just felt like it was a little bit too much.
Yeah, it was a bit heavy, but but by the same token, though, like now having seen that Wesley was brought in as a character, it's disappointing again that the series was canceled, right?
Yeah, I mean,
we'll see where it goes in the next 10 episodes, though, I guess, right?
Yeah, and also it was clear that they were trying to both pay homage to Voyager, obviously, with the Janeway connection, and then bringing Chakotay into it, really into it, as opposed to just being the MacGuffin for season 1, and then bringing the Doctor into it. It felt like there was sort of a real Voyager thread. So it was a bit of a curveball to bring in Wesley. As I agree with Jaime. Like I thought who this was going to be the character that's recurred through the series. The man of many names. But it was a bit of a weird twist, but also not a bad one. Like it was an interesting episode, and again, I'm glad that they finally got an opportunity to bring
Will Wheaton back.
Wheaton back, because like this guy just bleeds Trek, and so it's kind of nice that after all of these projects that they've done, that they finally found a way to incorporate him. Although, as I say, don't know that he came off in the best light, but it was nice to have him back and actually playing an important role. It always felt weird that he they wrote him off the show, he disappeared, and then there was no real follow through on.
But I thought in his autobiography that he kind of talked about how he was off of, because he didn't have a good experience as a child actor. In fact, a lot of the child actors at that time didn't, right?
Yeah.
And I think that was part of the problem for him, was that he didn't want to do that, right? So.
Yeah.
And maybe this was an avenue, and the After Trek that he does, right? Is that called After Trek? No, the Ready Room, right?
The Ready Room, that's right.
Yeah, that kind of gives him an avenue to be involved, and to love Trek, but not have the same sort of, I guess, what's the word I'm looking for? Stresses that he would have gone through as a young person, right? Or triggers, not re-trigger things, right? Yeah.
Well, and again, he seems like he's made a good living being Will Wheaton, so that's good. But again, I think it was not the best. But I would say that, there was definitely a lot of stuff to engage. I was into it because I was like, where are they going with this? But I think that is the issue. So many between, the Marvel movies, the DC movies, Star Trek, like there's been so much multiverse, time travel, timey-wimey, we need to move this one thing to change this one thing. It just feels like these stories are a little bit played out, and even we'll talk about it in a little bit in the our picks, because we'll talk a little bit about Captain America: Brave New World, but it feels like this sort of multiverse, alt timeline, timey-wimey stuff. It needs to go away for a while. It feels like this is where we were with zombies about 10 years ago. Like, please stop telling zombie stories. And 10 years before that, it was vampire stories. Like, just, can we retire those? Can we just agree across all these different things to just put them away for a little while?
Yeah, you mean there's not a lot of, they're all derivative, not a lot of originality, right?
Well, and again, like, it's a cheat code. It's a cheat code for story writing, honestly. Like, and I don't mean to disparage anyone in particular, but it's just a great way to write yourself out of corners, to say, well, but time travel, oh, but multiverse. It's like, yeah, like, sure, okay, great. So you can bring back a character that you liked, that was popular with the fans, even though you killed them. You can do all these things that you want to do and just say time travel or, alternate universe. It's like, yeah, okay, great, cool, yeah, sure, yeah.
Yeah.
Now, a word from our sponsor.
At Arizona State University, we're bringing world-class education from our globally acclaimed faculty to you. Ranked #1 in innovation for 10 consecutive years and #2 among public universities for employability, ASU isn't just ahead of the curve, it's creating new paths to success. Earn your degree from the nation's most innovative university. Online, that's a degree better. Explore more than 300 undergraduate, graduate, and certificate programs at asuonline.asu.edu.
All you homeowners have unique needs. Some feel the need to leave up holiday decorations year-round. Others have the need to use their garage as practice space for their new metal band. And because each homeowner has unique needs, Geico helps you get the right coverage for your home and what's in it. That way, you get exactly what's right for you, even if your needs are unique. Get more with Geico.
Now, back to the show.
Can we move on to Severance?
Yeah.
Mhm.
All right, so we're talking about season 2, episode 4 and episode 5. So, season 4 was around an Orbot, what do they call it? Ortbo. Yeah, they had an Ortbo where they went to Woes Hollow,
yeah,
and had an out of office team building exercise,
yeah.
which kind of culminated in breaking up the team a little bit.
Yeah, we talked about the fact that episode 4 was reputedly going to be a banger, and it did deliver on that front right from the very beginning when it starts, and you're just not sure what you're watching, because season 2 episode 3 ends with Mark theoretically being re-merged with Audi and Innie, right? So when you start this one, I think we all kind of went into it thinking, well, that's where we'll pick up. And instead, it starts in this like very wintry scene with, Mark on a cliff and Irving out on a frozen lake. And you're just like, what is happening? Is this a dream? Is this like, some of the weird Lumen programming? Like, what's happening? And I really admired how they kept you off guard through this whole episode. Like you were just kind of reeling. Like they throw you that curveball right off the top, and the whole episode you're like, is this really happening? Like what's going on here? And then you sort of come around to like, okay, maybe this is happening. But then, especially because they tie in all this weird mythology of the founder of Lumen, this like missing lost book where they're like, this is the world's largest waterfall, and they're telling the story of how he like wandered away from this family, and it was all just so like apocryphal and weird. It was just a really weird episode, and then to have it, we get the culmination of the Mark and Helena / Helly stuff. Plus we get the Irving, suspicions about Helly and Helena stuff come to a fruition. And then just a banger of an ending, right? So this was a really great episode.
Yeah, we also learned too, so far it's been the elevator seemed to be the trigger, but we've learned that the chip can be turned on and off.
Yeah.
Remotely, I guess, right? Because they turn on Helly Helena's chip to turn her into Heli at one point.
Yeah. Yeah.
And because I kind of wonder, like, how do they end up, like, how do you wake up standing in the middle of a lake, a frozen lake, sort of thing?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, how do they get you from, showing up at the office in the morning to being dressed up for winter in the middle of a lake, right?
Yeah.
So unless they can turn you on and off and maybe have other things, and then there's also the well, I guess it's the comeuppance in the second episode where we're talking about Trojan Horse, where I forgot his name now. The dude who's in charge, the floor manager.
Oh, Mr.
Milchick.
Milchick. Yeah. I want to say milkshake. Yeah.
Yeah, he's up for promotion, and the knock he gets against him on the promotion. I can't tell you how many times I've gone in for reviews, and they always pull out this like thing out of left field, and you're like, what the,
yeah.
So they pull out the fact that this episode with the Ortbo went really badly for the team, right? And they ended up losing a team member, right? So
yeah. Okay. Before we circle on to the next episode, Jaime, I got to know, like, this was a weird one, but a great one. What did you think?
Yeah, I thought it was definitely as described, right? You think you'd said that the reviewers had gotten the first 4 episodes ahead of time, and they said that 4 was where things definitely take a turn. And it does, right? With the Irving plotline for sure. I mean, the Helena reveal and stuff is interesting, but the Irv versus Irving sort of thing is definitely a pretty big deal. Like from the innie's perspective, if the Audi never turns them back on, they're effectively dead, right? That was a big reason in season 1 why while everybody's like, hey, Bert is retiring, and Irving was losing it of like, no, this person that I love is going to die. Why are you all there cheering this on?
Yeah. And that's a great point. So if the idea is at the end of that episode, end of episode 4, that they essentially deactivate Annie Irving, does that mean that he's, for all intents and purposes, dead? And do we see him again? Do we see the Annie version of Irving again? Or is that it for his character? Now he's strictly an Audi, and the story of what he's up to is all on the outside now.
Yeah, I don't know. It's interesting that this show is using technology, but it's a metaphor for your working life and your home life, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because I mean, and we've all 3 of us have changed companies and changed position, pivoted our roles over the years. You have a certain nostalgia for the previous job you had, but you really can't go back once you've left, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of like, you put on your suit and tie and you go to the office and you show up and you're that person at the office, and yet your kids and your wife know you as somebody completely different. That's exactly what Severance is trying to do with a technology that separates you, so that you're unaware of, You're not thinking about home when you're at the office, and you're not thinking about the office when you're at home is the conceit here. But it's a metaphor for, like I said, for your work life and your home life, right?
Yeah.
Like you can have relationships in your work life that are, the equivalent of being married to somebody, but not real. Like I always joke about, or I always like the story that Keith Richards says about being a member of the Rolling Stones. It's like being married but no sex, right?
Mm-hmm. At least not with each other.
No, yeah. But I mean, you know what I mean? Like. So it's kind of like that's where this is they play with these lines, right? So between Helena, who, I mean, like there's plenty of times where you have someone who's the boss's daughter, for example, is working with you in the situation, and you're always aware that they're the boss's daughter, but they're trying to be one buddy and break the rules, like Mariner on
Lower Decks.
Lower Decks. She's the boss's daughter, but she's like the rebel, right?
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, she's still the boss's daughter, right?
Yeah.
And that's kind of where Helena and Helena come in, right?
Yeah. I did think that this was I couldn't help but think about my experiences, as I have just recently changed jobs, as obviously I'm changing provinces as well. But It is so true. Like, I certainly have had over the years a number of colleagues who have left abruptly or been dismissed or whatever the circumstances, taken a buyout without letting everybody know they were leaving or whatever. And it does at times, you know, the relationships, as you say, Tim, the relationships you build in these places can be very strong, and you think of them like you may not socialize as much outside
and
of work.
And how you think about it is different than how they think about it.
For sure. Yeah. But that loss that you feel sometimes when, you know, you find out, oh, they let Susie go, and you're like, geez, like, you know, there's a distinct possibility I'll never see Susie ever again, and we spent all these years working on something. Like, that's the emotion that they're going through. And, you know, obviously first it happens with Bert and then it happens with Irving, right? Where it's like, yeah, like for all intents and purposes, they're gone, they're dead, you'll never see them again. And, you know, that relationship, no matter how strong it is just over without any, you know, discussion or farewell or anything. It's just gone. You're just like, wow. So it's a really interesting metaphor for that kind of work experience.
Yeah, and I mean, there's also the same thing with you know, acquaintances that you make. I mean, I've had a couple of instances recently where, you know, I worked with somebody. Like, I have a pretty strong rule about LinkedIn. I won't connect with you on LinkedIn unless I've actually had more than 5 words exchanged between us. You know. So like I have sort of my private rule. Like, I will connect with you if we've worked together, right, in some way. But there's been a couple of other times where people that I felt I had a good relationship with, you know, you try and friend them on Facebook or on Twitter, and they either tell you outright, I don't want to be your friend because I really don't know you that well. I can respect that, right? But that's what I'm saying. It's kind of a weird dynamic in that, you know, you do this thing all the time with each other. Hopefully Jaime's not, you know, thinking, oh my God, these guys are not my friends when the podcast is over. You know what I mean? But you know what I mean? Like there's people in high school you went to school with, there's teammates you played, you know, sports with, there's, you know, people, like you said, people you worked on special projects with, who at the end of it, you're like, we did such a good thing, we survived this, you know, ordeal together, you know, whether it's like going to work every day or special project kind of stuff. And then it's like nothing at the end of it, right? So I have plenty of friends that I'm still, and I know you do too, John, and that are people I've worked with in the past who I'm still friends with, or people I went to school with I'm still friends with. But then there's others who... Yeah,
they're just gone.
Yeah, they're gone, and you reach out to them and nothing, right? So
yeah. Well, and you realize that, you know, sometimes it's the circumstance, not the relationship, right? Like, it's the fact that you were in the trenches.
I've had friends who, because of management's machinations, who will no longer speak to me because they thought I was in on it.
Yeah.
that's a really tough one to put up with, right?
Yeah. No, and I've had that circumstance too, where when I was in management, where, you know, I would be put in a position where I couldn't reveal certain pieces of information, and then that's held against me. So people are like, well, you're the problem. I'm like, it's not my decisions. I'm just not allowed to talk about these things, right?
Yeah. Or you just weren't told.
Yeah. I mean, in some cases, it's like, they tell you 20 minutes before the axe falls on somebody. I'm like, what am I supposed to do with this? Like, you know. Yeah, but yeah, no, it's again good, a really good thinky episode, and just like I said, I felt off kilter through the whole thing. It just felt like the whole episode was designed to just make you feel very unsure of everything. You know, and of course to have it culminate with, you know, Irving basically threatening to murder Helena to get Helly back was a real, like, holy moly moment, and then culminating with his quote unquote death. So, like, wow, what a banger. But then that leads into the next one, which, you know, is the aftermath of all that, where, you know, they realize Irving's gone and there's nothing they can do about it, and they have to deal with the aftermath of that, right?
Well, and also Milchick getting the black mark on his record because of it, right?
Well, and Helena not wanting to go back in after being revealed that she was, you know, what was I can't remember the word. I forgot to write it down. The Swedish word where the Swedish king went undercover, and when Milchick tells them the story, oh, she was just, you know, working amongst the peasants so that she could learn what things were like, and she wasn't entirely just in there to seduce Mark and, you know, spy on them. Yeah.
Yeah, that was a weird. The whole seducing Mark part was weird too in retrospect, right?
Well, and it messes him up, right? Because he's clearly as Mark S, not Mark Scout, as Mark S, who is, still working on rejoining his two sides of his personality, to have him think that he's, falling for and then sleeping with Helly, who he's developed this closeness with, and then to find out that it's not. Like, you can tell in this episode that he's just so gutted by all this, and he's like, I can't trust you, I don't know who you are. Like, he feels so betrayed by this experience, and it's really interesting the way that, he's trying to play it cool through this episode, right? He's like, oh no, I'm a company guy, I'm here for the company, because he's got his own agenda, but also he's seething, right?
Yeah, and then the Audi Mark also feels guilty about, well, does he know about that? I can't remember. Because he's trying to find his wife, right? So
yeah, well, yeah, and then we obviously there's the whole him trying to bring his two sides of himself together on the outside and having these flashes. Like at one point when he's in episode 4, where he's in a knapsack or in a sleeping bag with Helena, he sees a flash of his theoretically dead wife, right? So stuff's happening inside his brain, and that's why
because he's trying to reprogram himself too at the same time, right?
Yeah, and I think that's why episode 4 worked so well too. Is again because the setup is Mark is doing this dramatic thing to his brain. So is this all just a weird inside his head thing that's happening, right?
Oh, good question. Yeah. And then you've got the young lady, what's her name, Miss Huang, who betrays Milchek, right?
Oh yeah, she's the one who clearly put the paperclip song the wrong way and uses words that are too big. I'm like,
yeah.
Oh, that one stung just a little bit. I'm going to tell you guys. I'm just going to say that the uses too many big words stung just a little bit. I'm sure that one was on a report about me at some point.
Or the TPS reports. That
the
you didn't
TPS
use the
reports,
right cover sheets. Yeah, I've had the you didn't use the right cover sheets before, like metaphorically, right? So I've had that many times.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah, good episodes.
What do you think, Jaime, about episode 5?
Yeah, I thought it was pretty interesting to see some of these things come together. There's been people kind of theorizing for a while, like what's the deal with Miss Casey? Is it Gemma as a clone? Was it a fake death? The cover up sort of thing. This one presents it as being cover up. They know people in the morgue that was definitely not your wife's remains, which seems plausible given that he had to identify the body. It presumably burned is what was described, so that's a little easier to be like, oh look, they I don't know, she's got an ankle tattoo or something, so they put an ankle tattoo that wasn't burned all the way through on some other corpse, or she's got a Lil Wayne grill or something that she wears. Oh, look, that's the grill. I can imagine ways in which that might have plausibly happened. What that has to do with anything? Is it related to Cold Harbor? That's part of the intrigue of this show, of getting you to continue following, what is actually going on here. And then, shout out to what I assume is on a storefront somewhere. I'm going to assume you can buy those Irving mugs, the blue mugs with his face on it that they use for the funeral.
Oh, and then the watermelon?
The watermelon was something else.
That's a crazy one. I guess it'd be nice if they made a watermelon flavored gummy snack or something, because that's scaled down, because that's a little bit more plausible thing that you might eat rather than a huge watermelon.
The head. That's the part that gets me. It looks exactly like John Turturro, and then they're eating it, right?
Well, and then to have Dylan after everybody else leaves, Dylan obviously takes it super hard because he and Irving are so close, and to have him sitting there talking to Irving's bust in watermelon is that's a real thing. That was really weird.
But that's like the cake ceremony you used to do whenever we used to, at one place I worked, whenever somebody left a team, there would be the cake ceremony. They would get one of those I know, a Costco cake. I can't think of the name of it.
Those square sheet cakes, yeah.
Yeah. And then everyone would come in and have a piece of cake, and we used to call that getting caked, right? But yeah, I don't know. But it's the weird, like the crap you have to put up with in reviews, like, is one thing. The odd, out of office, let's go bowling nonsense, or whatever the team building exercise is, and then all this sort of crazy ceremonial getting caked stuff. I mean, they're hitting this nail on the head. And in fact, I think we didn't talk about this, but Apple has announced that Severance numbers are more popular than Ted Lasso.
Yeah, I saw that. Actually, just the other day they said that, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
It's. I mean, it is a great puzzle box, right? It really is a real, what is happening? I want to figure it out. Like, it really does lure you in. And on top of that, again, between sets and props and people and direction, like, all of it is just top notch. So I mean, there's a lot to love there. I am surprised. I mean, the appeal of Ted Lasso is so broad. You'd think that would trump this, but yeah, it's pretty incredible.
Well, it's like the Steve Carell Office, right? I don't like watching the Steve Carell Office because it reminds me of too many painful experiences, right? Yeah. Whereas this is of course they're painful, but it's so twisted and science fiction-y that it's, or what's the surreal, I guess is the word I'm looking for, that it's the same pain points, but just so much you still want to know what's going on, right? So I was a little worried about season 2. It wasn't kind of clicking and gelling quite as well as season 1 did for me, but I think the last couple of episodes have kind of like really, hammered home that this is a really thought-provoking series, right?
Yeah, it is. It certainly is.
Say things.
The other thing that is worth sort of thinking about, because you certainly have Ms. Wong, who says, you shouldn't let them have this celebration for Irving. It makes them think that they're people, right? So the premise of her point of view is like, innies are not real people. They're maybe like a personality that is created in an existing person is maybe her approach. But think about the thing that we saw where, like, there was some sort of cottage or village or something where, like, rich ladies could go who were pregnant and not experience the pain and horror of childbirth. So, I assume they just wake up and they're like, oh, look, I have a baby. That's awesome. But there's another person or personality who suddenly exists, is in excruciating pain, and then has their child stolen from them, or like they themselves die. Like, it's a really weird sort of thing to think about, of like how twisted that is to do to a human of some sort.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Yeah. It's I mean, I feel it's funny. I'm trying to convince my wife to watch this now. I'm like, oh, it's so good, you should watch it. And she's just like, didn't you just start watching this? I'm like, yeah, but now I love it.
Yeah.
Turned into an evangelist. I'm a converted. Yeah.
Yeah, we did warn you.
Yeah.
It was a good show.
Yeah, no, it is. I'm curious to see what the second, now again, we're only at the halfway point of a 10-episode season, so it'll be interesting to see how they, where they go from here. I mean, obviously this is, the real MacGuffin of this season so far is this Cold Harbor file that they're so desperate for Mark to work on. And, there's the underlying, what's the big thing? Why are they scared when they look at the computers? What is the big thing that Lumen wants? I still think there's something in there about sort of immortality. Something's happening there with the Egan family that is really creepy, and I don't know if it's about legacy or if it's about cloning or it's about I don't know what the overarching thing is. I've read a lot of theories online, and they are all interesting ideas, but I am really curious to see how this all plays out.
Hey, because you had mentioned the cloning idea with the wife, right?
Yeah. I mean, that was my thought as far as, maybe that's how there was two versions, but then they explicitly said in episode 5, that's not your wife. That's not your wife's ashes. So that could actually be her, which kind of pours a little bit of water on the cloning idea, although the whole thing with the goats lends itself to maybe that's something as well. So I don't know. I really don't know which way to go. I've listened to some theories. I've seen some stuff. I should find him. There's a great guy on social media. I'll see if I can find it before the end of the episode. There's a great guy I started following on Instagram who who does Severance theories, and he's terrific. I'll see if I can find him. But yeah, it was. It's interesting to hear all the different ways people are interpreting it. Some people think that, the whole thing with Milchick and the black versions of Keir Egan, that there's this weird, like, maybe this is in an alternate history where the South won the Civil War. Like, there's all kinds of really interesting ideas out there. In the end, I'm not sure how many of them will prove true, but it's really interesting to see what people are reading into the performances, the characters, the dialogue. It's just one of those shows that just lends itself so beautifully. I don't remember being this into a puzzle box since Lost. That was the last time I remember this being like everybody was talking about like the show.
Yeah, but didn't that end kind of weird though?
It ended extremely, in my opinion, extremely disappointingly for a show that was at times absolutely engaging. It didn't land the way that I hoped it would land. Their end game was not as good as their game, but it was still a terrific show, and at times it was an exceptional show. Hey, I wonder if Substance is going to win a Spockie Award next year.
Severance? Interesting. Good question. But that brings us to the discussion about the Spockies. So why don't we dive into that?
Mm-hmm.
Now, you guys, I sent you a PDF of the results so you can follow along and comment.
So I can gasp and go, I can't believe it.
Yeah, I know. So I've got the interactive one, so I can sort of dig into if the colors don't make sense to you. But so we'll start off with, do you want to do one each? I think that's what we did last time, right?
Yeah, we'll do them in different, we'll take turns.
Okay, so I guess I can start with the best movie, sci-fi or fantasy. I had to sort of put some for the people who don't always regularly watch our show. There were questions about it, so about the polls. So I had to be specific that this is the best movie, sci-fi and fantasy. Mm-hmm. And we ended up with a 1, 2, 3, maybe fourth punch, I guess. Yeah. I think some of them are just being funny, but so Dune Part 2 was a clear winner with about 45% of the votes, followed by Deadpool and Wolverine, and the third one was The Wild Robot with a couple of people, 18% of the votes on that one. So yeah, any surprise there? We were a little confused because some people ask, well, how come Beetlejuice ended up on this one? I thought we sort of debated some of these things. I think in the end we just sort of went, once we got it down to 10, we're like, there you go, there's 10. Okay, cool.
But I'm not surprised. I think Dune, of this genre, I think Dune was the strongest as far as sort of the complete package. That was my vote. It again was not the greatest year for sci-fi fantasy movies. I think the list drops off pretty significantly after the first few, so I'm not surprised at that being the result. But Jaime, what was your pick? What did you vote for?
I think I went for Dune Part 2 on this.
Yeah.
But the people spoke, so Dune did win, and then Deadpool and Wolverine, which probably would have been my second choice, and then the people spoke. Beetlejuice is a third.
Oh no, I think it's the Wild Robot. I think the version Tim sent is 2 gradients of blue.
Oh, okay. I was like, man, people spoke here.
Yeah.
Okay, so Wild Robot. Gotcha.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah, it's interesting because it's a blue color for you. Okay, I was curious as to whether I'm looking at a live version of it, so I wonder if the colors changed, but I don't think it did.
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
All right, Jaime, you want to do best TV show?
I'm mildly fearful because of how many different slices there are. So I'm going to do my best.
There is a clear winner, but
having just
there's a tie for second.
Yeah. So best TV show, sci-fi fantasy. If I'm looking this correctly, I believe it is Star Trek Lower Decks season 5. I can't read the whole.
Yeah.
Yep. Season 5. Yeah.
So there you go. That got a quarter of all the votes, and then the tie for second is Penguin season 1 and 3 Body Problem.
Right.
Great. Yep. There we go.
So it was real divided up here, because we also had Doctor Who, we had Dark Matter, we had.
Yeah. I feel like it was a stronger category than the movies. Like it wasn't as easy a choice. I think in this one. I did vote for the Penguin. I thought that was probably the strongest, although that may have been some recency bias as well. I mean, I love Lower Decks. I've always loved Lower Decks, and I always will love Lower Decks, but I'm not sure that it was the best. But we are a Star Trek podcast, and God bless our voters. They've chosen.
So for comic relief, we also had my friend Tammy, who voted for things, I guess you could say. She did a write-in. It says, I didn't see any of these either, but I loved Arcane Season 1.
Okay. Well, so it's good to know that Arcane was on there for somebody.
Yeah.
So next up is Best Star Trek Series. This one is not a surprise at all. With a whopping 58.3% of the vote was Star Trek Lower Deck Season 5. I agree. I think that was the strongest thing out there. Discovery Season 5 got 25% of the vote. And then from there, Next Generation got some votes because we just thought we'd have some fun and throw that in there. But that
would be Tammy again.
And Prodigy got.
By the way, just for reference, a couple of weeks ago, Tammy watched Monty Python and the Holy Grail for the first time, and we recommended that she go watch Life of Brian next. So that's you can take that with a grain of salt, right?
So underneath the rock where Tammy is, Next Generation is still the winner for Best Star Trek Show.
I did a podcast with her for about 4 years, and I tried to convince her to watch Firefly. She did eventually watch it, but it was after the podcast was over.
Well, and because I remember I was a guest on your show, and when you said, who was your favorite, sci-fi character, I said, I really like Malcolm Reynolds. And she was like, who's that? I'm like, the guy from Firefly. And she was just like, oh, here we go again.
Yeah. Well, because another friend of ours also liked Malcolm Reynolds, too.
Yeah.
And the Brown Coats.
Yep. All right, Best Actor.
Okay, Best Actor would be me again. Now this is a real slam dunk.
Yeah.
We had a number of people here. We had Colin Farrell was far and away 50% winner of that one for Penguin Season 1, which is hard. I think hard to compete because he was unrecognizable in that.
Terrific in that, yeah.
But your man Manny Jacinto and Timothée Chalamet tied for second. So
yeah, and I'm glad that we decided to keep Manny in there because I really do think he was by far the best part of that show. Your mileage may vary with how you feel about the Acolyte, but I think it was indisputable that he was a breakout star in that.
Yeah, and then Joe Locke from Agatha All Along Season 1 also got votes. And Tammy, of course, said, who even are these people?
Yes, thanks for the write-in.
All right. Over to Jaime for Best Actress, I believe, right?
Yeah.
Movie or TV, by the way, these are combined.
Yeah.
Yes, we did combine it. So with 33 and a third % of the vote, we have Kristen Milioti from Penguin Season 1.
Yep. Again, very well deserved.
Pretty tight, though, with it looks like Catherine Hahn from Agatha All Along, if I'm seeing the correct read.
Yep.
And then Demi Moore as the third slot for The Substance.
Yep. And next up is these ones I was really fascinated by. The most anticipated movie of 2025. A lot of different things got votes. I think we've got 7 of the 10 got votes, which is that's a pretty divided field.
Yeah. The
winner was, surprising to me, How to Train Your Dragon?
Wait, no, hang on a second. What are you looking at?
Oh, maybe I'm not seeing the end of this list. What's the purple?
Fantastic Four.
Oh, I'm seeing Fantastic Four is green.
Fantastic Four and wait, there's 2 Fantastic Four. What? I'm going to say Fantastic Four 1 because it looks like a tie, but there's actually somehow. I guess Google must have messed that up because initially when I put this list up, people didn't know what they were, so I added the YouTube links. So watch the trailers, right? And it looks like the Fantastic Four. I can do quick bits of 46% of the vote went to Fantastic Four.
Okay, well it
got split.
That makes more sense to me because I was like very confused when I saw that How to Train Your Dragon was at the top of the pile here. I was like, I don't understand, but yes, that makes more sense to me. Fantastic Four: First Steps is our most anticipated movie of 2025. that was my choice as well. Although there are definitely some other ones on here that I'm looking forward to. I think that one is probably the one I'm looking forward to the most.
Let me see. No, Tammy's looking forward to 28 years later. There's a surprise. It's about zombies.
Yeah. Tell Tammy that it's 2025 and zombies are over.
Yeah. My vote was for Mickey 17.
I mean, do you remember what you picked for that one?
Most anticipated?
I can look that up if you want.
No, I'm gonna guess it was probably Fantastic Four.
Yeah. I will say I'm looking forward to Superman a lot too, and a lot of these movies for sure. But I feel like the Fantastic Four just has a real buzz to it right now.
Yeah, cool.
All right, Tim, most anticipated TV show?
Most anticipated TV show, Daredevil Born Again, Season 1. Mm-hmm. So that got 30% of the votes. Again, that's another split field. Andor Season 2 got a bunch of votes. I probably should have voted for that. I don't think I did, though.
Yeah, I did. I was almost... those two were the toughest. This was the toughest category for me, but that I chose Andor.
So 23% of the vote went to Andor Season 2, and then 15% went to Lanterns Season 1, which I didn't even know was a thing.
Yeah, that's the new HBO Green Lantern series, yeah.
Oh, is it? Okay. And then we had votes for Wakanda, Ironheart, Stranger Things, and I don't even know any of these shows. Oops, I guess guess who that
is. Well, there's no zombie shows, so... there's Marvel Zombies. Did we have that on the list?
Maybe it might got cut. Maybe.
Yeah.
Because I'm pretty sure she would have voted for that.
Jaime, do you remember which one you put on this list?
I think I went with Andor Season 2.
Yeah. For me, it was a really tough call because Andor and Daredevil are both like real personal favorites. But in the end, I think because it's a Season 2 and final versus a Season 1 sort of again, I feel like Andor was the one for me. And also that was the most exceptional show I've seen in the last number of years. So that one was a good one for me. All right. And our last one, I guess, is for you, Jaime, best streaming service.
Best streaming service 2024. So looks like Apple TV Plus took this with 50% of the vote. Perhaps not a surprise because we have seen banger after banger come out of this service. Mm-hmm. Second place is, I'm going to assume that's Disney Plus / Hulu. We did talk about combining those because it's, at least for sure in the States, possibly less so in Canada, it's like really getting absorbed into Disney Plus.
Yeah, here they basically rebrand all the Hulu stuff as Star, and you get it as part of your subscription to Disney Plus. So it's essentially the same service now.
Yeah. And then
no votes for Crave. I mean, come on.
A three-way, possibly four-way. It's hard to tell. There's no number on the PDF I'm seeing. Maybe there's a four-way tie for...
It is four-way, yeah.
For third. So Netflix, looks like Crunchyroll, Amazon Prime, and Paramount Plus. They're all equally loved. Tubi did not get the love. Crave did not get the love. Pluto did not get the love.
Yeah,
right.
Those have their place. I think they're not as sexy as some of the heavy hitters.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And Tim, you had a bonus question in here for us.
Well, I put a bonus question in here. Is it my turn to go, or your turn?
It's mine, but which streaming services do you use? And so I don't know, what scale are we grading this on here?
None. We're just sort of looking.
So Amazon Prime, 84.6% of our audience uses Amazon Prime. 61.5% use Apple TV Plus, which is interesting because statistically it is much lower penetration than some of these other ones. Max / Crave, 46.2%. Disney Plus / Hulu was 76.9%. So was Netflix. So was Paramount Plus. Only 15.4 for Pluto and Tubi. YouTube only got 7.7, which I mean, maybe that speaks to our demographics, but like that seemed really low to me. And then the Pirate Bay got 7.7% as well.
Was YouTube on the original question? I wonder if it was right in.
I don't know. I mean, it is not.
I mean, I do pay for it as a streaming service, but I don't think of it as a streaming service.
Yeah, it's a tough because it's kind of somewhere between streaming service / social media platform. It kind of has a lot of ways you can read it.
Well, technically, then I should have, if this wasn't a write-in, I would have voted for it because I do use YouTube, but we do have a paid account.
Yeah.
I do watch Tubi as well, right? Yep. So, and I don't know, I do use Pluto, but somebody else uses Pluto as well, I guess. Other people do, I should say.
Yep.
So that's the Spockies, Season 7.
Thanks for playing.
2024 Spockies. People have been asking about this too.
Yep.
Well, there's a big debate about the Beetlejuice, and somebody asked about Lilo and Stitch on best.
Most anticipated movie? Yeah.
Maybe. Or animated, maybe?
It was most anticipated.
Oh, no, because How I Train Your Dragon, and that was the question, question they asked, why, How to Train Your Dragon was on there, but not Lilo and Stitch, or, no. What?
Yeah.
But I had to explain, no, this is the new live action 2025 version, right? So.
Yep.
Cool. Oh, one thing we didn't, which bit of a spoilers for the non-existence on our watch list, which is coming up soon, is the new James Bond Mission Impossible trailer came out. Anyway, well, let's move on to watch list. Can I go first?
You're right there. It's all you.
All right, so we were talking about Oscar contenders and things like that, and I was trying to figure out a time to go and see The Substance, which is playing at the TIFF Bell Lightbox, but the day it was playing was today. So I couldn't go and see it today and do the podcast at the same time. So I thought to myself, well, it would cost me probably $25, $30 to go see The Substance in the theater, or I could just rent it on my Vision Pro and watch it there. So I did watch it, and it is a banger of a movie. It is really good. And I could see why Demi Moore is a contender for Best Actress, considering that there was an interview with her on I think it's on Stephen Colbert, or maybe it was Jimmy Kimmel, but some director had told her years and years ago that she was a popcorn actress, right? And so she never really took herself seriously. No, I think she mentioned that in her acceptance speech, right? For the Golden Globe. But yeah, it is a very interesting thing, and I got this quote here from one of the reviews on Letterboxd, and I don't remember the context, but it basically says it's comparing this and something else, and The Substance, and it says one of them is about how women are forced to subject their bodies to unthinkable horrors in the pursuit of impossible standards, all the while an unforgiving society looks on. The other is the movie Substance.
Yeah.
Which in the review they said that Demi Moore gives a great performance, but it is a really trippy. It is a horror, right? So if you're at all squeamish, I don't recommend this movie to you. But it is a really interesting essay on the whole current, how you look kind of importance kind of thing, right? So and it's a little bit Cronenberg. It's a little bit, it's a good story, and it's worth a watch, I think. And I could see why, if you watch it, you'll see why people are going to be talking about this for a long time. So it's that good.
Cool.
The second one I have on my list was Borderlands, which we cut Borderlands from our Spockies because we had fallen into the trap of listening to what other people had said about the movie. I didn't find it that bad. I actually kind of enjoyed it. And I stopped halfway through and I saw, what is it? Why do people hate this movie so much, right? So I went and found a video on YouTube which shows the Borderlands 3 play along or whatever, right? Where somebody's playing the thing. And the Cate Blanchett character looks exactly like Cate Blanchett. The weird Jack Black character, which the characters are strange in this story, and yet they match the characters in the actual video game. So I don't understand, if you're doing a movie about a video game and you follow the pattern of the characterizations in the video game, why is that bad, right? So, like I said, it blowed up pretty good. It is pretty much like the hero's journey. It's the whole, I mean, you will figure, like, there's a person who's supposed to be a secret key, like Lilu in the story. This is all stuff that's revealed in the first 5 minutes. I'm not giving too much away, but you know, and it's sort of the you're a wizard, Harry Potter kind of stuff, right? You know, there's a few things in the story that are kind of like obvious, but it watches very much like a video game. There's boss levels, and you know, there's lots of pew pew pew, and there's impossible, you know, battles that they have where they couldn't possibly win, and yet they come out the winners, you know, kind of thing, right? So I don't know. I can't say don't watch it, but I did find it enjoyable. It's a good popcorn movie, right?
Yeah, I mean, I can't say that I am a Borderlands game fan, and I haven't seen the movie yet. It did get absolutely panned, and I think a lot of the criticism was tied to the fact that it was,
strange characters, and also just it felt like it was not as true to the game, which I think always frustrates video game fans, just as it does for comic nerds like me, right? Like, you know, when they completely redo a character, you're like, hey, but what? Like, why is Batman shooting people? But I mean, it's a first-person shooter, and you're the person walking around. So you really don't have people are talking to you, right? So how do you make a movie out of that, right?
Yeah.
You know, I don't know. They made a movie out of Dune, didn't they? Once, like Doom, you know.
Doom, yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know. It's not, like I said. I looked at it. It's even on sale for $7.99. And I thought, it's the style of game I'm not even interested in playing, so I thought about buying it just to sort of go through it like I did with Last of Us and see if it was reasonable or a reasonable portrayal, but yeah, it seemed okay. And the last movie, so again, the same thing. I rented it for $6.99. I watched The Wild Robot. It is available, as Jonathan mentioned last time we talked, I think it's on Amazon now or something. Yep. But I want to see it 3D, right? And Amazon on the Vision Pro is not 3D, so I rented the Apple TV version, and I watched it in 3D. And then I went back, and just for science, I watched a little bit of it in 2D. It definitely is much better in 3D. Really interesting movie. The story is kind of interesting. The animation is amazing because it's apparently all hand painted, right? There's obviously modeling and CGI involved and that kind of stuff, but the textures and the fur on the animals, everything is all painted. It's a little bit like WALL-E in that sense, I guess. If you can't have it's basically about a robot that gets lost at sea kind of thing and ends up on this island. Where it learns how to communicate with the animals and stuff, but the owners come back for it, right? So it is a little bit like WALL-E in that sort of story, but it's a fun movie. It's a fun thing. I don't know. I'm comparing it to Wallace and Gromit, who I think is an amazing movie. It's a great franchise, right? I love it. So. A lot of in jokes for people who have been into British TV for a long time. So it's hard to say. I don't know how I would rate these two movies against each other. But that said, Flow is the one that won the Golden Globe, I think, right, in the SAG Award.
Yep.
So I haven't seen Flow yet, but yeah, apparently Flow there's no dialogue.
Nope.
All right. Well, I'm going to hand it over to you guys to talk about your picks.
Yeah. Mine is a website, lumenindustries.com. That's lumen and then a hyphen. And you too can participate in macro data refinement. So this is actually mobile friendly. I tried it on my phone. It's a little harder to do. I recommend having a keyboard a mouse, I should say. But just kind of wander around and see if any of these numbers speak to you, and drag a little square around them with your mouse.
I'm doing it right now, and I'm getting a lot of nope.
And yeah, like you kind of have to sort of watch to see if there's like a pattern or something. I was really slow. There's people really fast. If you complete, you get a little thing you can share on social media that says, I have brought glory to the company, praise Kier, and then has what you were working on and how long it took you. So kind of neat. It would be better if I had a trackball. I think it'd be a little bit more authentic in that case. I have a regular mouse.
Yeah.
Is this logical? Like I'm actually getting pretty good at it, but I don't know what I'm doing.
I have no idea. Not even the slightest clue. I thought I had the pattern figured out, and it turns out no, I don't. So Just look around until you feel emotions related to the numbers.
What else you got for us, Jaime?
The other one is I finally got a chance to watch Squid Game Season 2. I guess I should put S2 on there for Netflix. It is only 7 episodes long, and we do know that the third and final season has been announced. It's like June 27th. So if you're looking to catch up, there you go. My opinion is that it averages out to a grade of about a B plus. And the reason I give it that is you really have to deal with a slow slog in the first 2 episodes. Once they get into episode 3, I'm like, okay, there you go. This is what I paid for, right? I want to see the games. It takes a while to get there, and if you could have chopped off the first 2 episodes and fit them in content-wise somewhere else, it probably would be closer to an A, maybe an A minus. But I was ready to give up going through the first 2 episodes. So word to the wise, you might feel the same.
Does it conclude well? Does it set up a stage for part 3? Like, how does it leave you feeling when you're done?
It's I think they intentionally did these, probably film these back to back or something, where it's kind of like The Empire Strikes Back. It'd be very unsatisfying to end on season 2. Like they have to go to season 3, and I think they intended it to be that way, given how quickly they announced season 3, as opposed to here. What are we, like 3-ish, maybe almost 4-ish years between season 1 and season 2? I think this was a pandemic special, if I'm not mistaken. It was one of the ones that everybody was watching during the lockdowns.
Yeah.
Season 1, that is.
Yep. No, it looked a little bit, I don't know. It looked like Battle Royale. It looked like Hunger Games-y, and
definitely.
Just, I don't know. I feel like maybe I was just a little burned out on that concept by that point. I have heard many good things about it, just haven't made the time for it.
Yeah, I think Hunger Games and Battle Royale are both really good comparisons to the kind of thing. So if you're into those, you probably will want to watch Squid Game. If you're not, or if you're burnt down to those, I don't recommend getting the Squid Game. Just wait it out a bit. Tastes and etc. can change.
All right. Well, I've got a few things for us. One of the things I managed to do when I was back in Ontario last week was go watch Captain America: Brave New World alongside Tim, and it was good, not great. I've seen some mixed reviews out there. It seems like the fans liked it a lot more than the critics. It tried really, really, really hard to be Winter Soldier. It was about a Captain America who had a Falcon sidekick. It was a mystery that had to be solved. There was these, sort of conspiracy thing going on. They had a Black Widow. Like, it all lined up as a very, like, they were trying to do Winter Soldier Part 2 in the hopes that it might, capture that same magic. But unfortunately, there was just too many other things that derailed it. It just wasn't quite as crackling, particularly because it was Anthony Mackie's first, obviously we saw him in Falcon and the Winter Soldier, but this was his first adventure as Captain America. It didn't seem to have the same kind of heft that Winter Soldier did because Winter Soldier came after we had already seen Captain America, the first Avenger, and we'd seen Avengers. So we kind of had that relationship with him. It didn't feel, and we do have a relationship with Anthony Mackie, and we do have a relationship with his character, Sam, who we first met in Winter Soldier. But to me, it just felt like they were trying too hard to do something that was piggybacking off something successful than to try and do something wholly original. And it just ended up being a little bit muddled in spots. There were some plot problems, definitely. I know they had to go back and do some reshoots. They kind of squeezed in this Giancarlo Esposito character. Yeah, like I say, it was good. I enjoyed it. I think the fact that we had Anthony Mackie as a Black American carry a movie as Captain America is very important. I think that was a huge milestone, and I think it's amazing. I don't think I think I enjoy him. I think he's got a lot of charisma. I think it'll be interesting to see how they use that character going forward. But ultimately, it was a good but not great movie. It was, it's a solid 3 out of 5. It's not anything better than that. And if you enjoy the Marvel movies and you like the characters, you will enjoy it and you will like it. If you don't, then I'm sure you can nitpick the heck out of this. Tim, what did you think?
Mm-hmm.
My problem with the movie was the concept of a president of the United States that was a relatively reasonable person who, always was concerned about doing the right thing, and because Anthony Mackie could talk about doing the right thing, and even though he did have some. There was a hidden agenda in his thinking, right? Kind of thing, like played by Harrison Ford. I found it, in light of current events, so unbelievable that I didn't enjoy the movie from that perspective.
Yeah,
that was my takeaway. But like you said, it was kind of a lukewarm kind of movie overall.
Yeah, I mean, again, good action pieces, good performances, but just yeah.
The Red Hulk was a little weird too. It was kind of like did it really move the plot forward, having him become the Hulk there for a minute?
No, but then, yeah, the Red Hulk stuff was definitely, it wasn't the main part of the movie, which is really interesting because that's kind of how they branded it, was like, oh, there's going to be a Hulk and he's red, and oh my gosh, and and again, there was kind of a mystery element to it, but they also were pretty, it was pretty on Front Street. Like, it took me, I mean, Tim, you were sitting next to me. It took me 3-4 minutes into the movie where I was like, oh, okay. Like it was just, again, it wasn't Winter Soldier. It was right there. It was quite predictable. That's not to say it was bad. Harrison Ford, for an 82-year-old person, your mileage may vary on some of his recent performances. My wife has watched Shrinking, which I haven't, but she said he's great in that. I thought he was pretty solid as Thunderbolt Ross, as a replacement for the dear departed actor who played him previously. But again, there was parts to like. It just didn't all come together, unfortunately, the way that I think we were kind of hoping for. And it is a bit of a shame because I'd hate to think that this was not. I don't think it was review bomb by any means, but I think it just feels like didn't quite get the love that previous incarnations of this character have. But
yeah, it was a strange sort of grumpy old guy. I don't know if you hadn't seen him in other things before, because he was the character from, I think you said, the Edward Norton Hulk movie, right? Like, wasn't he the one that was out to get the Hulk?
Yeah. I mean, Incredible Hulk is in the MCU.
Yeah, and they tied this movie into a bunch of stuff that happens in that one. And that was one of the fairer criticisms that I heard, was people saying, like, you are relying on people to remember stuff that happened in the Incredible Hulk movie, which was the second Marvel movie in 2008. Like, that's a lot of time to expect people to go back and remember details from
the Liv Ullmann thing, right? Or Liv Tyler thing, right? Yeah.
Yeah. No, I mean, there's definitely like big plot arcs that carried over from that movie, which A, was by far not the best Marvel movie, and B, was 17 years ago. 17 years ago. So, that's an awful big ask from fans, unless you're a diehard. And even if you're a diehard, how many times have you seen The Incredible Hulk?
Yeah, twice maybe.
Yeah. Yeah. Anyways, I'm not saying you shouldn't go see it. I'm glad I saw it. I would say it's worth seeing in the theater. There are some cool action scenes. I think there's some good performances. I think there's stuff to like there. It's just, there's also a lot of head scratchy stuff, and ultimately it's a poor imitation of Winter Soldier.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, quickly, finally watched Inside Out 2, thanks to my sweet little 6-year-old cousin. Sat down and finally watched that. It was sweet. It was wonderful, and cannot tell you how much I loved it. And I'm so glad that she made me sit down and watch it with her. I just, something about these movies just hits me in the feels. Maybe having a teenage daughter, I don't know, but it all hit me very much in the feels. And she said she's now seen it 7 times, so clearly it resonates with that audience too. So she was doing dialogue. She was doing me, like I was having flashbacks. She was doing me as a small child. She was like doing the dialogue as the movie was on, and I was like, that's adorable. But yeah, it's on Disney Plus, and yeah, I really enjoyed that one.
It's good on Vision Pro too, by the way.
Is it in 3D?
Yeah.
Oh, cool. Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man wrapped up this week. Bit of a short run, given that they dropped sort of bunches of episodes all at once. So it was pretty much over in a month. I really enjoyed it. Jaime, I don't know, did you have a chance to finish it?
I have not. It has been rather frustrating, the release schedule, because it would be like 2 episodes. All right, that's a premiere. 1 episode. Let's do 3. I'm like, bro, come on. It's hard for me to plan out my watching. And like today, it was like, oh, I'll watch this at lunch. I'm like, I can't finish this. There's 9 and 10.
Yeah.
It's like, I thought I was going to hammer one out during lunch. I'm like, all right, I'm going to do Invincible then and see if I can get to Spider-Man tonight, and I didn't make it in time for the show, but I have been enjoying this because it's let me ask you, what do you think the age range is for this show? Because I thought it was way younger at the beginning, and then some stuff happens, I'm like, yeah, that's pretty adult. I'm like, maybe this is more like close to young teen maybe approach. I'm not sure where to put it. Like, I was trying to make a comparison to like Batman the Animated Series that was like sort of for kids, but actually like fairly dark as well and more adult.
Yeah, it's a fair point. I definitely felt like going in, I was expecting it to skew younger, you know, maybe even more in that Miles Morales kind of like tween teen comfortable range. But you're right, like, you know, street gangs, like there's some stuff in there, you know, there's some racial stuff, like it's pretty fully realized in a way that I wasn't expecting. Like it has a very cartoony, it's kind of an homage to the 1967 series with the soundtrack and some of the energy to it. It's very bright and colorful in spite of the fact that it's dealing with some heavy stuff. You know, there's blood, there's, you know, pretty gory violence at times and stuff. And you're like, whoa, okay. I actually enjoyed this whole series way more than I thought. I'm not going to really get into the last 2 episodes, you know, given obviously, I mean, you're not into it. And I know a lot of people may not have had a chance to watch it yet, but I would say having now watched all 10, I enjoyed it way more than I maybe thought I would and invested way more than I thought I would. And it definitely sets the stage. Now, I like the fact that initially it was supposed to be set in the MCU. It was supposed to be kind of a prequel to the Tom Holland Spider-Man stuff. And in the end, they were like, it's too restricting. Let's just make it its own, again, Spider-Verse-y kind of thing. And I think that decision was really interesting because it lets them go to a whole bunch of different places to change some characters up, to explore different scenarios for Spider-Man. So, you know, what if instead of having Tony Stark as his mentor, he had Norman Osborn as his mentor? And, you know, you get these kind of interesting vibes, you know, when Norman says to him in one of the sort of mid-season episodes, you know, he says, with great power, and you're waiting for the Stan Lee line of with great power comes great responsibility. And he says, no, with great power comes great respect. You should be able to use your power to get yourself respect. And I was like, that's a really interesting modern twist on this. I thought this was a really interesting series, and the only spoiler I'll offer for the last couple episodes is that definitely sets the stage for more wider, broader, bigger, new stuff to come. So it'll be interesting to see where they take this, because I think there's a lot of potential to tap into some really cool stuff. I enjoyed a lot of not just Peter Parker and the sort of stuff you're expecting, but some of the supporting characters. I thought they really had some interesting stuff to do. It was pretty fully realized in a very satisfying way. So yeah, definitely would get my endorsement.
Cool. Yeah, I did watch an episode of it. I'd probably get back into it. Yeah, I did. It's enjoyable. It's a good series.
Yeah, and it like I say, I think Jaime's right on that it at first glance, it seems like it's going to be maybe a little young, maybe a little puerile, but it's not. It's got some meat to it. It's got some stuff to think about. It's pretty good. Okay, last thing, I saw this like a week plus ago, and I had to flag it. Somebody on YouTube, I put this into the links, somebody has started doing an anime version of the Star Wars Heir to the Empire book series. They've started doing it as an anime series. I don't know how long it's going to take them to do this. This is the first part of the first book. It's great. It's so good. It's so strangely satisfying. I stumbled across this when I was just scrolling through YouTube. It came up as something on a recommended list, and it's pretty short. It's only a few minutes, and I imagine that they'd have to do a bunch of these to sort of get through to the first book, let alone the trilogy, the Thrawn trilogy. This is where the character of Grand Admiral Thrawn originally debuted. They have since retconned it so that this is now what they call legend, so it doesn't actually exist in real Star Wars canon. But it's a really terrific little piece of content, and if you're a fan of that book, which I am, I read those Tim Zahn books when they came out. 30 years ago now. I think people will get a kick out of this, and just even some of the takes on the characters in the anime style is pretty neat. So if you want something fresh on Star Wars, check that one out.
Yeah, I think I started reading those books too. I've read a couple of them so far, the original Thrawn books, which are weird in a sense, but yeah. Yeah,
I mean, they've absorbed some of that stuff into the Thrawn canon in Rebels and into Ahsoka and stuff. They definitely are staying pretty true to the character that Tim Zahn originally created, but this whole arc is a whole different storyline as to how he sort of rises to power in the vacuum of the Empire's demise.
Cool. All right. Well, before we go, I just want to do a quick fact check that William Hurt played General Thunderbolt Ross.
Yes.
Rest in peace. All right. Well, I guess that's it for another week. So, Jonathan, if people want to get in touch with you, where would they find you?
You can find me on the Instagram for now as JPK at JPK News, or you can find me on Blue Sky as at JPK News, or you can find me on YouTube at youtube.com/@JPK.
All right. And Jaime, if people want in touch with you, where do they find you?
I'm on Instagram as @DevWithAHair.
All right. Well, my name is Tim Mitra, TIMMITRA on most of the socials. I am on Blue Sky, Mastodon, and places like that. And Instagram, of course. So, and something new. I can't remember what the hell it was. But anyway, yeah. So until next time, we'll see you in the future.
Bye.
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 You've been listening to the Spockcast podcast. If you want to find out more about the podcast or see the episode show notes, visit the Spockcast website at spockcast.com. If you have feedback or questions, you can get in touch with us on the website. If you like the show, please consider recommending us to a friend, writing a review on iTunes, or pledging any amount at patreon.com/Spockcast. You can find details on how to help us on our website, spockcast.com/sponsor us. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you in the future.
There you go. That's the name of that tune.
Okay. Before I forget, I will be out next week because I'll be traveling to Missouri for work.
Missouri? Missouri?
Missouri. The weather is turning in the right direction because earlier this week, let's see if I can find. Actually, today's high in Monette was 13. Wow. A low of -8. And then by the time I arrive on Tuesday, it will be a balmy 66 degrees. Make that make sense somehow. It doesn't. That's nuts. That's too much swing. Of a... Yeah. They're going to see 13, 30, 40, 54. So, big chunks to like rapidly get it to a decent time. I had no clue how I was going to dress, and I probably still won't make my decision until Monday as to what exactly I pack, just to see what the weather's doing.
Mm-hmm. Well, right now, Jaime, here in scenic Jacksontown, New Brunswick, there are 6 foot tall snowdrifts in my yard. My littler dog cannot go outside other than like the part that's been plowed, because otherwise she disappears. And the bigger one has to bounce through the snow like a jackrabbit. So yeah.
Yeah, we have lots of snow here. I had to shovel parts of the backyard so the dogs could go and take care of business, right? So obviously we put our house on the market this week,
before I left, I actually took, because I had put those paving stones around the back of the house, I actually took my snowblower and snowblowed the backyard just so that people who are coming to look at the house could actually go outside, because otherwise there was no way. They'd be up to their, past their knees. For perspective, Jaime, we just across Canada just got absolutely dumped on over the past week. All the way across, pretty much from the prairies over all the way to the East Coast, just got absolutely leveled. Montreal got 6 feet of snow in 72 hours. It's just a tremendous, and more snow than we've had in years here. We just got absolutely leveled by it. So yeah, but yeah, I had to snowblow multiple times before I left to clear it out. But it's really funny too, because all the pictures went up on the realtor site today. For Canada, and my yard is just invisible. It's it looks like I live in a freaking igloo.
Yeah, that's pretty wild. The weather's been weird here in my neck of the woods in the Seattle area, but it hasn't been anywhere near as crazy as other parts of the country that are dealing with the big, pummels with snow, and then it's perfectly fine, and then pummels with snow, and then flooding elsewhere.
Yeah.
So, yeah. And then, of course, the world was watching as the really crazy thing happened with that Delta flight over in Toronto.
My God. Yeah.
Thank heavens that everybody turned out all right, because the video definitely makes it look pretty much there's no way anybody survived that one kind of vibe.
Yeah, I haven't seen any updates but my understanding was there was no severe injuries, which is good.
With respect to which?
The Delta Airlines flight at Pearson.
Yeah, that was a fascinating. Apparently, Bombardier designed the plane that if it ever had any stress on the wings would just come off, which is what happened. Yeah. So that's why it ended up upside down. I think what happened, watched the video a couple of times, and I think what happened was as it was coming down, there was another gust of wind that tipped it onto the one wing, right? So
yeah.
Apparently, all of the people who were, I think it was 20 people went to the hospital. They've all been released.
Yeah.
And I think Delta's giving them $30,000 each or something like that.
I'd want more.
And some of them are saying that, but yeah.
If I have to be let off the plane, and somebody has to catch me, that's probably a sign that I want a nice payday out of that.
And they Delta just published their new safety video, and all of the footage is shot upside down.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
I don't know if that's funny or...
Yeah. Too soon.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad that it is about as good an outcome as you can expect. We've seen awful stuff happen with plane accidents, but yeah. Well, I don't know about you guys, but I'll be ready for spring. Spring sounds nice, although I'm also a little bit terrified because I know from having visited the place that I'm staying at currently, the ground is frozen. It's very solid. It's not too bad, but in springtime, it gets very muddy here. I have visions of just the nightmare of my dogs being just absolutely coated in New Brunswick field mud. But, c'est la vie.
Here's what it is. Well, yay, Canada won. I'm going to go watch the replay.
Yeah, it's they're currently skating around the ice in Boston holding a trophy. I'm led to understand that the Mr. Pumpkinhead is there in the audience, so that's good. Yeah, that was the thing.
47?
That is what I had read prior to the game. Whether or not that is, in fact, accurate, I don't know. But
well, maybe there'll be a tariff on Canadian hockey players and U.S. teams.
Probably. But that would be an appropriate response. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, again, it's much ado about nothing in a lot of these cases for Canadian sports. Obviously we get really, really riled up about Canada being the best hockey nation, yada, yada. But I can't help but think that this is a nice outcome for Canadians who are all feeling a little angsty about some of the rhetoric that's been coming from the White House. So it is nice to have at least something positive to focus on and not just the doom and gloom.
Yeah. All right, folks.
Alrighty.
Till we meet again.
All right.
Until next time. You
Safe
guys.
Travels, Jaime.
Thank you. Y'all record whenever you please, because I won't be available next week.
All good.
All right. Okay.
All right.
Bye.
Later. Bye.
All you homeowners have unique needs. Some feel the need to leave up holiday decorations year-round. Others have the need to use their garage as practice space for their new metal band. And because each homeowner has unique needs, Geico helps you get the right coverage for your home and what's in it. That way, you get exactly what's right for you, even if your needs are unique. Get more with Geico.